2024, a brand new year, and yet two major conflicts across the world. The Defence Secretary has said that the UK is ready to take direct action in attacking Houthi rebels who apparently are going to try and hijack cargo ships in the Red Sea.
American airstrikes killed a number of people and sank 3 vessels after the Iranian-backed militia came within metres of the boat. Here to discuss this is former NATO Commander Rear Admiral Chris Parry. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Explain to us, what is going on? Why is the situation escalating?
Well, I think this is a bit of fallout from the situation in Israel, Gaza. Right now, we're seeing quite a lot of our totalitarian opponents, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, all seeking to stress the American system. 2024, they know, is an election year. It's election year in the United Kingdom. And we've spoken before about the world splitting into 2 blocks. There's that Eurasian autocratic bloc, as I said, of Russia, China, Iran and North Korea, and the free world that frankly dominates the sea. And we've said also that the sea is the physical equivalent of the World Wide Web. If you can't control the sea, you can't actually benefit from globalization. So what's happening here is the Iranians, through their proxies, are trying to stress the free world system. And if you look at what goes through the Red Sea, mostly it's goods from China and Asia and all the oil and gas that comes to Europe and the free world. You'll notice that none of the oil and gas that goes to China or indeed India is being interrupted by this. So this is the Iranians actually saying to the Houthis, you know, you share our political and religious objectives. Give us a hand here. We're stressing Israel through Hamas and a bit through Hezbollah. Let's see what we can do at the southern end of the Red Sea.
So lots of different groups being stirred up, if you like. When you head into a new year, and apologies for the voice, it's just hanging on. When you think about Putin in Ukraine, when you think about the horrors that are going on in Gaza, and I make the point, you know, nobody could in any way justify the horrors of October the 7th, but the humanitarian thing that we're all seeing is becoming more desperate by the day. Where do you think both of these conflicts end? Where do you think the world goes in what direction, Chris?
Jeremy, we've got a global crisis in 2024. We've got a confrontation, as I said, between these 2 blocks. Each is testing each other out at the moment. If you join up all the dots, we've got the potential for a world war. There's no question about that. It is not just about the greater Middle East, Israel and Gaza. It's not just about Ukraine. It's about very aggressive totalitarian powers again, and it's echoes of the 1930s.
How do you think that could escalate?
Well, all you've got to do is actually not contain some of these crises. Look at the Red Sea, for example. The Americans and ourselves are saying, look, this is a discrete crisis. You mustn't link it to Israel and Gaza. This is essentially an attack on international shipping. The Houthis have got no right to interfere with the innocent passage of merchant ships. It's against international law. And we're going to take action to do that. You've got to liken it to the pirates off Somalia. It's a similar sort of thing. And if you accept that the sea is the physical equivalent of the World Wide Web, this is like malware in the system. You want to get rid of it. And for the world's economy to thrive, we have to deal with these threats.
One of the things that always interests me, because I've got teenage kids, is how they perceive what's going on in the world. And my kids, one of them said to me the other day, do you think there's going to be a war, Dad? Do you think, I mean, genuinely, what do you say as a parent? But do you honestly think this could escalate? Do you think... Because people worry about that sort of stuff, understandably, and they want people who know what they're talking about. Not me. They want experts like you. Should people be concerned? What do you think?
Yes, we've got all the ingredients for a major confrontation between the totalitarian powers of the world and the free world at the moment. It's a moment of crisis. I was saying just before we came on to a couple of people, just look at the rhetoric, look at what was happening in the late 1930s, and it's replicated now. Trotsky had an amazing expression. He said, you might not be interested in war. He said, but war might be interested in you. And we're in a situation now where we may not have the choices about how this goes. We have aggressive regimes in China, Iran and Russia who have internal problems that they need to externalise.
Do you think that the right kind of processes are in play to prevent that?
No, I don't. The one thing we lack in the free world right now is statesmen and women. who can actually deal with this. If you go back to the 1950s, crises of this scale were handled by people of real stature, real learning. And we've got an information environment at the moment where, frankly, you can't differentiate between the truth and fiction.
That's very interesting.
And that's being played out in Israel, Gaza at the moment. It's being played out in Ukraine. The truth is being made on the ground. It is not being made, I'm afraid, on the airwaves right now. And truth is a very, very narrow and very valuable commodity at the moment, and particularly when you're dealing with issues of deterrence and defence.
What does the free world need to do, then, to take on these totalitarian regimes? What do you think, from a military point of view? You're in the Navy, but what is the answer? Is it? And let's be perfectly honest, but nobody wants war, but what do we do? Sit round the table with people like Putin, or do we...
Yeah, we do.
What do we do?
We do everything.
Surely.
No, we use every instrument of government and state power to actually prevent this happening. The problem is deterrence is failing at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not afraid of us. We need to move from deterrence to defence. And that means, I'm afraid, spending more on defence and security. It means actually saying we've got more than 2 days' worth of ammunition if we actually get into a conflict. At the moment, our opponents can see the bottom of our locker. And you've got China, Iran, actually supplying Russia with the munitions that are using in Ukraine at the moment. And it's the same with Iran. The weapons the Houthis are using are made in China. They're brought through Iran and given to the Houthis. These are anti-ship missiles being used by a group that actually is not even a state power. And I think this morning I heard that 2 of them were fired against an American warship. Now, you know, that has to be contained, that crisis. We have to confront totalitarianism at the first go. If Hitler had been confronted when he reoccupied the Rhineland, we wouldn't have got to World War II. At the moment, we've got totalitarian regimes creating new normal, which puts us into very dangerous ground. That's the point.
Chris, thank you as ever. Alicia, thank you as well. Really appreciate it.